Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome back
everybody.
to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show. I'm Talib.
And I'm Ty, and we're from hisandhermoney.com, where we're teaching you how to have better money
Become a better couple
and live a better life.
Yo, we are glad to have you back
Oh
here
my
for
gosh,
another
super
fantastic edition of the show because there's so many shows that you can be listening to. There's something like 3, 5, 10 million podcasts
Wow.
in the world. Did you know that? It's
No, I didn't
crazy.
know that.
Podcast is
Wow.
exploding big
Well, we
time.
appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for your loyalty, your faithfulness. We read your comments, your reviews, all of it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We're at like 1,000 reviews right now.
That's incredible.
That means people are getting benefited.
Oh my gosh.
And so that makes us happy. That gives us
Yes, it
fuel
does.
to keep pushing this thing forward. Do us a favor. If you enjoy what we do, you enjoy the show, share it on social media. We especially love it when you share it on your Instagram stories. That way we can see it. Tag us at His and Her Money, and we can say thank you. And we can let the world know that you rocking with us and that we are rocking with you. All right, let's get on to today's show, man. I'm kind of excited about this because, we're always trying to help the culture find different ways to bring in some income, some revenue. We are all fully aware now, if we weren't before, that depending on one source of income is a really bad idea. Yeah. And so we have been on the hunt trying to bring as many opportunities your way as possible. And we're about to do that yet again today.
Now, how many podcasts did you say are out there?
Millions on millions.
So this episode is actually going to be very, very powerful because we are going to be interviewing someone that's going to help you all be equipped to be able to make some extra cash with podcasting. So not necessarily having your own podcast, but becoming almost like a VA.
A producer.
There we go. I like that word. Produce it.
You're going to produce.
So if there are millions of podcasts out there, then there's work out there to be made and money.
So we got an expert on the matter to help us dive into this not well-known niche, but we about to change that. We got Hailey Thomas, the co-founder of Podcast Production School, here to talk to us and to you about how you can use this niche to bring in some income for you and your family. So let's get Hailey on so we can hear all of her great insight on the matter.
Hi, Hailey.
Hello, and thank you so much, you both, for having me on. I have to say right off the bat, just straight up fangirl moment, because I listen to your show anyway. So this is a very full circle. I'm having a lot of feelings moment right now.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Super excited. I always love hearing that.
We appreciate that so much, man. But yo, you've got something to say.
My gosh,
First of all, you got an incredible story and journey that you personally went on. And now, as a result of the journey you've been on, you're helping some other folks create some journeys of their very own. But before we start talking about all that, I know everybody ready to hear. They got their pens and their paper.
And I do want to say our power players are present. If you are part of powercouplesuniversity.com, you are actually watching this live. So by the time this episode actually comes out,
you're watching it in a whole nother year.
And there's going to be like a whole new thing where if you're watching it live, as such as power players, you're going to get pretty much the longer version of this particular podcast. By the time it hits the public, everybody else is going to be a little bit more condensed and shorter. And our power players have the opportunity to ask questions.
That's right.
So if you all have questions, go ahead and drop them in the description box or the comment section and we'll get to them.
Go to powercouplesuniversity.com. Stop playing. You're missing out. All right. So Hailey, man, hi, welcome.
Hi,
and
Hailey.
Some people are ready to hear your advice, but some people are like, who's Hailey? What's her story? So can you say hello to everybody that's tuned in and kind of let them know what you're all about?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Hailey Thomas. And probably the thing I love most about online business is that you have no idea who I am. Like anyone can start a business and be making money and producing income for their families and not have any sort of celebrity or name. So I love that I am internet famous in my parts of the internet, but some people don't know me. So as I said, my name is Hailey Thomas, and I'm a mindset coach for entrepreneurs. So I predominantly help people get very clear about the work and the life they want a year from now, and then work to become the person that creates those results. So I started my journey in business as a virtual assistant. So we had moved from St. Louis to Normal, Illinois, where we lived for almost 5 years. But in that transition, my husband and I left my corporate job. My husband left his job there. And so we were in a predicament of we moved because God said it's time to go, but we didn't have any jobs. And so he had to find a job. And we had, I think it was 28 days between the time rent was due. He had found a job and I needed $800. I was just I just have to figure out how to bridge this gap. And so I, had some corporate background. And I said, surely somebody needs an administrative assistant or an HR or whatever. I came out of HR, out of a tech company. So that's when I started my VA business. And at the time, the goal was just to fill that $800 gap in the month. So I started that business. And then by the time I hit my first year, I think I did close to like 60K. And then I did 75K in revenue that second year with this little VA agency. And the thing I loved most about being a VA was getting to come alongside and have these strategic and like thoughtful conversations with leaders, asking them, where are you going? Where is this work going? How can we equip your team? And so eventually I kind of plucked that piece out of the virtual assistant world, kind of sold parts of my virtual assistant business off, and then just offer the coaching. So that's what I do now. So between being a virtual assistant and seeing inside of SaaS companies and tech companies and consultancies, and having, my VA business as a solo person, as an agency, I had digital products. We have podcast production school now. So I hooked up with Gina and Melanie, my co-creators, and we have a digital product and a membership community. I have seen all of the ways there is to make money online. I probably have seen it or have done it myself. So that's a little bit about my journey.
All right. Now I wanted to jump into the podcast production school, but we got to hold up. You done said something at the beginning of your statement, and we got to open and unpack that. You said that we moved because God said it was time to go. We ain't had no jobs. We went for it. Okay. A lot of people listening, they're at a crossroads. They want to start a business. They have a 9-to-5. They're trying to hear from God. Should I just leave this thing and just go for it? Not one, but both of y'all took a leap of faith simultaneously. So talk to us about what all went into that story, because I know that got a lot of people's attention, like it got me.
So I'm going to be completely honest and say that my husband at first was the first one that was like, I think we need to move back. Like, I've been praying about it. I think we need to move back. And I'm going to level with you. My first response was like, no, we don't. What do you mean? No. And so it took me probably like a good 2 or 3 months before I was even ready to entertain that. So I don't want it to sound like I just felt it and the Lord told me, because the Lord wasn't speaking to me that way. I was not listening that way. But my husband said, okay, well, let's do this. Let's put our house on the market and see what happens. So we put our house on the market. Less than 48 hours later, there was contract and it was sold. So we had to leave, right? It was just, we had to go. So for us, I think one of the things that I coach on a lot and recognize a lot that there's 2 pieces. One, my husband had a concept for us, there's a self concept, but also just a concept or thoughts about what our family needed to do and how big we could be and what we should be doing that I hadn't had yet. So he was patient with me and was like sharing the vision that he had with me. Took me some time to catch it, but I think he did that very well and had a concept of where we could be and what we could be doing before I had, which was great. And then the second thing was this self-efficacy and trust we had built up in ourselves of, I don't really know how this is going to all play out, but I know here are the skills that I have. This is what I'm able to do. And I trust that the decisions that we make we're just going to make them the right decisions, right? We're just going to make this the best decision and know that even if we make a decision and that outcome isn't something we would like repeat again, we trust ourselves and have enough skill sets, like we had done, taken an inventory. This is what we have to know that we can do the next thing after that, even if we, didn't love the outcome of that decision.
Yeah. So let's talk about producing podcasts. Who is this for? Is this for the average person?
It sounds intimidating a little bit.
Yeah, it really does.
It does, yeah.
It seems like it's a lot of work. Exactly. And all of the weight and burden would be on me. So let's talk about the basics. There are a lot of people that are hearing this for the first time, didn't even know that this was possible.
Yeah.
And we also want you to share some stories, some personal stories, success stories or whatnot of people who who have done it and they're doing well with this. So yeah, let's start there first. Who is this for?
So podcast production can literally be for anybody. And I love it because I'm an extrovert and I love to talk to people. My husband and actually many of the people that take our courses are introverts. They're not trying to talk to people all the time. And they love podcast production for that exact thing of like, they put on headphones, they edit audio, they get stuff published, but they don't actually have to be all with the people because they just don't like that. And that's okay. So I think podcast production is such an excellent place to sit because it lets people who maybe aren't naturally like wanting to be in front of the mic to still be a part of podcasts. So I'm going to back it up a little bit because podcast production does sound very like, when I first heard that phrase, I think of like TV producers, like these are massive roles and massive peoples. But a podcast producer is just someone who takes a piece of audio, like an MP4 file, MP3 file, takes a piece of audio, edits it, and then puts it on the internet. It's super straightforward, and it's not incredibly technically challenging. You just need to know the steps to do. And pretty much anyone can do this. So currently my 16-year-old nephew, we gave him access to the course. And that's one of my jobs for him right now, because I'm that auntie, is like, learn how to be a producer. You don't have to do this the rest of your life, but learn how to edit audio and like do this for a while. It's better than working at McDonald's or whatever. But it's pretty straightforward. And the great thing about podcasts, as you guys have alluded to, there are over 1 million podcasts right now. So podcasting is a very interesting space because there are so many of them and this industry is so new. So there are over 500 million blogs, right? You remember a couple years ago when everybody was like, get a blog and you should be a blogger. And it had this massive boom. There was a portion in which there were still only, 1 million or 2 blogs before there was a large boom. Podcasting is right in that space. We're just over 1 million in the year of 2020. About 49% of them are active, like producing regularly. So that's, 500,000 podcasts that you can go produce for. So literally the opportunities are endless. And it's just before the boom that we saw blogging was supposed to have happen. So it is so early, and every year, and Apple Podcasts does a bunch of reporting on where podcasting is and how the industry as a whole is going. We are every like half a year, that number doubles. So by the time we get to 2021 or even like June 2021, we'll probably be closer to 1.5 or 2 million podcasts because they're growing and expanding so much. So in terms of opportunity, there is a lot of it. There's so much of it. The other thing that I would mention too is that similar to TV, there are a lot of advertising and a lot of business in podcasts. So before, when I was in my corporate job and just dreaming about working online, I would listen to podcasts on my commute, right? And so I only knew podcasting from the consumer side, listening to your show, listening to, Pat Flynn and all these online people's shows. As a consumer, now that I'm on the other side of it, advertising for the podcasting industry, like they spent, I think it was like $47 million in 2019 to advertise on podcasts. And that number is only going to grow as podcasting grows. So we can talk about all the ways that podcasts can be monetized. But I say all of this to say is that even though it's something that's not well known about right now, which even that is subjective, not well known to like the general public, but in that industry, people know what's up. It's growing and there's so much here. And we know that's true because like when advertisers start putting money in, like when companies start putting money in, that's when you know that there is money to be had in this industry.
So the signs are pointing to not only is it plenty of opportunity now, but the signs are pointing to like the opportunity will continue to expand even as soon as 6 to 12 months. You say this thing is going to double because everybody's starting a podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So if that's the case, this is early. I can get in and get a skill set that not too many people, or is this a market? That's a good question. This skill set that you're going to teach in this course and some of the stuff that you're going to unpack for us on this episode, is there a ton of competition already? Is it a saturated market, or is there room for a new person to get into the game and make some money?
So there is so much room for new competent people to be in this industry. It's bananas. So I told you there were 3 of us co-creators for podcast production school, right? So I started my podcast for my virtual assistant business. And originally I was looking for a producer because I was like, you know what, I don't have extra time. Let me hire somebody. So even just Googling, and this was in 2019, early 2019, Googling freelance podcast producer, I couldn't find anybody. I could hardly find anybody. I think I was able to contact like 3 people. One of them is Melanie Scroggins. She is our subject matter expert. She is a voice actor and audio engineer. Like she is all the technical stuff of podcast production. And so I ended up finding her. But it was just so funny because at the time she was like, I don't even know how you found me. And I'm like, I barely found you. And the industry continues to grow, but in terms of room for competent producers that have, well-packaged business, there's so much room. Like it's bananas because it was challenging even then to find it. There's a little bit more now, but there's still so much room.
I heard you mention that we can discuss the various ways that you can make money podcasting. And the only reason why I kind of really want to dive deeper in that, we have people listening right now who possibly, more than likely, may have their own podcast, but they're like, I'm not bringing in extra income right now to really hire somebody to actually help me. Let me know some ways that I can make money on my podcast so I can start outsourcing and possibly hiring someone, such as a producer, to take care of the editing and things like that.
Yeah, so I will mention real fast that often our audience falls in one of two buckets. People that, maybe they listen to a lot of shows and want to produce them. But so we went to PodFest. It was in Orlando this year in March, just before everything shut down. And there were so many people there that just had shows and wanted to make money on the side or like make more money from their shows. So it's very common for people who have shows to want to figure out how to monetize it. So the first way, in the way that I like to talk about it primarily, which is what we teach people, is if you have the skills to produce your own show, you have the skills to produce shows for other people. So just a super easy, straight up win is going to your community, people that you know, and not being a weirdo about it. But if they want to start a show or just want help producing their show on the regular, get hired as a producer, produce a couple shows in addition to yours, and boom, we say the average is between like $450 and $650 a month. $450 or $650 a month to produce 4 shows for somebody, depending on, your skill level and the extras and all that. But if you're producing 1 or 2 shows, that's $1,000 plus on the side of your actual show. So that's number one. The second way you can do it, and there's a couple ways like talk about it, is by having sponsors of your show, which at that level you need like a certain numbers, like downloads per or listeners per episode. And so you might have like Thrive Market or Modsy or any, companies that want to come and get in front of your audience. They will pay you to sponsor an episode. And that can be, they usually pay out on like a quarterly basis. And that can be any number of dollars for a company to just go, I want to sponsor this episode and have an ad on this episode. And they would pay like per time. So there's like a different price for a pre-roll, mid-roll, and at the end of a show. So you could have someone do that for your show. And then you can also just have affiliates, which this is a very popular way to monetize your show, is if there is a product that meshes well with your audience, like you're not just throwing any old thing in front of them, but meshes well with your audience, and you have tried and like you believe in that product, then you can create a relationship with someone like with that product and basically be paid per purchase or per click if it's more ad based, and make money in that way. So there, and then the third way or fourth way, I guess, I don't even know how many ways I've said, there's a lot of ways to make money with a podcast, is as you grow your authority in a space. So I sell kind of one-on-one coaching packages. And as I have been hired just from my podcast, right? So now I'm selling something that's a couple $1,000s from someone who's listened to a few episodes, and I've done no work to sell this person. And so you can sell your own products and your own services via your podcast as well.
Love reading, but wish you had more time to get into your favorite books? What if you could use the time you already have and listen to the books you already love? Well, now you can with Audible. With Audible books, you can be inspired, entertained, and educated anywhere, anytime. Choose from the bestsellers in self-development, business, nonfiction, and more. So what are you waiting for? Your first 30 days are free. Visit hisandhermoney.com/audible to get started today. That's hisandhermoney.com/audible.
So if I want to become a podcast producer, start this side hustle, do I need to buy a bunch of fancy equipment or software? How do I get into the game? Like, are there upfront costs?
And I do want to say, you guys, if you all are enjoying what you're listening to right now, Hailey and her partners actually offer a phenomenal bundle. It's totally free. So it's a checklist and some other things. You could talk about that, Hailey. Just go to hisandhermoney.com/PPS for podcast production school. So hisandhermoney.com/PPS. We'll make sure it's also in the show notes as well. But some of the things that she's going to be talking about that you can do, you can also get in this particular checklist.
Yeah, so I would for sure head there and get the checklist because it's so much easier to conceptualize what this is when you have, something in front of you to look at. But basically, podcast production is very simple. So I am the queen of like, what's the least amount of effort I need to get the outcome that I want? And I love podcast production for that exact reason. So all you really need, we teach primarily on an audio editing software called Audacity. It's free. You can download it to Mac or PC, doesn't matter, but that's free. You need over-the-ear headphones. I think I started off with a pair from probably Target, maybe Walmart, but $25, $30, right? And then you need audio to edit. That's predominantly it. There's some other softwares that if you're doing this for someone else, your client would pay for, which are like $15 to actually host it. But the cost for the startup costs for this side gig is very, very low. You need a computer, I guess. So if you don't have one of those, that might be expensive, but it's actually very, very low, which makes it a really great way for people to get in. And in the bundle that we're talking about, one of the workbooks is called What Services Should I Offer? So the wonderful thing about podcast production as well is that you can offer audio editing. You can help someone with guest management if they always have guests for their shows instead of a solo show. You can help someone with marketing and social media for their shows. You can help someone with technical setup and getting mics and stuff ready for them. Like there's so many things that you can do. And we always tell people to start with what you already know. So some of our people are coming out of radio. They're coming out of, being in front of the mic all the time. And so they know how to edit audio already. They know, how to do interviews and things like that. What they don't know is how to package it and put into a business necessarily, or how to do marketing if they want to help a client with marketing. We have some people that are virtual assistants and their skill set is in like guest management and the administration side and the project management side, because y'all know you have a show, so there's files everywhere and we got to make sure this person's emailed at this time. And so that may be their background, but they don't know the audio editing part. And so we can teach them the audio editing component. And then again, there's two skills you're learning. One, how do you be a producer? And the second skill is how do you then package this up and market yourself as a solution to business owners. And we teach both of those pieces in the course. And so that workbook, What Services Should I Offer, really helps you go, okay, what do I currently have in inventory already? What do I know how to do? What are the pieces that are missing? And how can I translate that into revenue, to income into my household?
So you're teaching not only how to make income as a producer, but different upsell services that you can add to even make your revenue go up even higher with this side hustle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so malleable. So Melanie and I have worked on, so when I was still a virtual assistant, I had my show, I had clients of mine that were like, I want a podcast. How come my VA has a podcast and I don't have a podcast? So I would bring Melanie in as the technical person, do the audio editing, and I was all marketing and project management. I had no desire at that point to learn anything about audio editing, but between the two of us, we had this like production team and could work together as teams. So that's the other beautiful thing, is that you get to make it what you want. It's good to know all of the pieces. Now I do know all the pieces and can do all the stuff, but even if you're coming in and like, I just know this, fantastic. We can work with that. We can teach you everything else, and you can come up with something that fits for you and what you want this to be for your life.
What I love about this idea, this option, this side hustle or whatnot, a way to make extra money, is the startup cost up front can be almost zero. Most people already have a pair of headphones. Most people already have a computer. Mm-hmm. And
Audacity is free.
And Audacity is free. So it's like, this is a no-brainer. My goodness, if you guys have not given this a try, we would highly recommend that you give it a try and then let us know how it went. Shoot us an email or leave a comment, because we always love hearing stories of how successful people have been with certain side hustles. So I want you to talk about some stories, share some stories, because we know that some people, they don't believe unless they hear how did it go for other people. So share with us some stories and maybe that you've encountered yourself personally of people taking on this job, and like, how much money can you really make? I know you say 450 to 650, but if somebody really hones in and takes this really, really seriously, like how big can it get?
Yeah, so there are, okay, I'm trying to figure out where to start. There's a bunch of stories I want to tell. So I always start with Mel's story, since she's one of our co-creators. She started in an RV. She was living off the coast of Oregon with her husband because they were, doing the travel around the US thing, and started off with like 1 or 2 clients, making like a couple $100, and was doing, I believe it was like 5 or 6K a month from her RV. And then they eventually settled down and moved into a house. And she was still only working, I want to say it was less than like 25 hours a week. It was certainly less than 30 hours a week producing these shows for people. She had a couple shows at that time. We've got a couple of students. So our whole goal is to get people a return on their investment. So our course is $500. It's just straight up $500. And our goal is for you to double it. So that means either, let's say you charge $500 a month for a client. We want you to do that for 2 months in a row. And we're like, great, you've at least double your investment. And if you can do it once, right, you can then add a second and a third and a fourth client. And so one of our not current favorites, we love all of our students, but her name is Miriam, and she is a mom, and she lives in the UK. And she came on board, and like I said, we teach the business part. She had some of the audio editing stuff down, but the business part, and then we do something called the 100 pitch challenge. So in the first 90 days, we have a kind of a success plan for you. In those first 90 days, one of the months, we want you to send 100 pitches, like make 100 new contacts in the space, because very few people nobody just knows podcast people like that. So make those connections. And she has, and is just made back her $1,000. I believe she joined us in, it is currently November, joined us in our October launch. So people are coming with all these different skill sets. And if you just go online right now and look up podcast production companies, right? Like you'll see, in addition to freelancers, like solo people, there's also a lot of small companies. Like there's a husband and wife team called Yellow House Media. I believe they're out of Texas. And they charge a couple grand, a month, like to help with content and to help with audio production and the marketing piece. So you really can make this as big or as small as you want. Sorry, they're out of Pennsylvania. I have another producer who's another husband and wife team out of Houston. And they have a different model where they have like a small team, like an agency. So they have like 10 or 12 clients at a time, right? And all of their people are just kind of contractors that work part-time. So it's so malleable, like it's so flexible. You can make this work. The other thing that I think is useful is we always say, like, be a lifelong learner, right? Gina, Mel, and myself are always like, I don't know how to do that. Let me learn how to do that. And so even if we invest $500 to learn, we make our investment back. The thing that you additionally get is that no one then can take that knowledge from you. So we've had some people come, make their investment back, but they're like, you know what? I actually don't love podcast production. But then they go back to their jobs or whatever. And they're like, oh, now they have me editing audio and taking stuff from, now I can work with the marketing team and we're producing this audio series. It's not a whole podcast, but it's, this thing that our company needs. Like, no one can then take these skills from you. You now can use them in any way you want to produce shows for yourself, for other people. Bring it back to your corporate job, get yourself a raise because now you're that much more valuable. Like it's just such an incredible opportunity.
You guys, if you all want to find out more information as well as when the course opens and things like that, because there are open and closes, not open throughout the entire year, make sure you go to hisandhermoney.com/PPS. That's Peter, Sam. All right. So hisandhermoney.com/PPS. I was like,
you're a military wife, huh?
Yeah, like I know something. Okay. We'll also make sure the links are in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the show notes if you are listening to this via podcast.
So I'm blown away at this because we're in a pandemic, post-pandemic society, and we need skill sets that are timeless and transferable. So this is a skill set you can use to start something on your own. I really like the fact that you mentioned that there are husbands and wives doing this together. I think that goes to what we teach here about legacy, building something, putting your last name on something you can give to your kids. And you also mentioned earlier that your 16-year-old nephew is doing it. This is something you can have your kids doing, all right, to bring in income. So these skill sets are timeless and transferable because you might have a good job now, but we've seen that you just don't know if there's any such thing as a secure job anymore. So this is a skill set that if things went wrong, now you got something to fall back on and you can build something that can still take care of your family. So I think this is super duper dope. So talk about those who are like, yeah, this might be something I need to consider. How much time do they need to allocate for the first phase, which would be training, learning this stuff, and then to run a successful side hustle? How much time, per week should I like realistically try to block out to make this a viable stream of income for me?
Yeah, so we like to say that, and these numbers are all subjective, right? Like this is just made up, but Gina, Melanie, and myself we share this business and we also have businesses and investments outside of it. So we are the type of people that's like, everything can't be taken all the time. We don't have time like that. So basically we say that a part-time income is $2,000. That's what we say is just like, fine, that'll be our marker for what a part-time income is. So for us, that would be 4 clients. If they're each producing like it's about $500, each are producing 3 or 4 episodes every single month. So what we offer in terms of ramp up time first, and I'll talk about time, how much time a week that might take. So we have a 90-day success plan for our students. So we say the first 30 days, the first thing we want you to do is go into your calendar and think about how much money or how much time you would have for a side hustle. Let's say if it's going to take you $2,000, or $2,000, and it'll take you 15 hours a week, maybe 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, whatever amount of hours a week you have. The first thing you need to do is go into the calendar, and from the very jump, you are blocking business hours for yourself from the jump. So the first 30 days, you're spending those business hours going through the course material. And we've built in literally every single lesson, like a homework, like an action item. So like you are learning to edit audio in this lesson. So you leave this lesson with an audio sample, you can then put in a portfolio. So when you send it off to clients, you have something to show them. If we're the marketing piece now, here's a piece that you can show people how to do. So the first 30 days is the content. The next is actually pitching people. Like we talked about the 100 pitch challenge we have. And then the last 30 days is, at that point, you should either have a client or, great, now you're gonna produce your own audio mini series. We're gonna show you how to do that, which does not, cost a lot. It's not like a whole thing, and you don't have to decide you wanna keep that show forever, but you're gonna produce a live thing now. So our thought is you have a 90-day ramp up period. So I feel like sometimes people spend more than 90 days trying to decide on like furniture or whatever. Like if you're going to spend 90 days, you may as well spend it getting ramped up on a side hustle. After that, it really just depends on what the time is. So you'll probably spend, and I feel like Melanie might come back and leave a comment wherever this is if I get it wrong, because she's our audio person. But you can spend 15 hours a month with those 4 clients and do like a full, like they give you the audio, you edit it, you publish it, you write show notes for it, and do maybe 1 or 2 pieces of social media with those 4 clients in about 15 hours.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, especially when you get like proficient and kind of have systems in place, right? So like part of what we teach in the course is we love our clients, they're fantastic, but they're not the experts. You end up being the expert. And so we teach you how to organize files, like go in there ready to work your business, to run your business. And so it ends up not taking as much time as, if you let the client like, well, we'll see. You can just be like, nope, I need audio on this date. It'll be ready for you on that date.
Love it. Talk about obstacles that maybe if someone wants to give this a try, what are some things that they need to kind of be prepared for, or some roadblocks that could happen just so they're kind of prepared, and well equipped?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think one of the predominant things that the two places people get stuck the most when they come to us, the first one is like people really being afraid that they're not technical enough. Like, I don't do tech. I don't know. I'm not gonna be able to figure it out. But we are very specific in the course about like, open this, then click that, then do this. We kind of have a standardized, like, this is where you start. Obviously, there's a bunch of things you can do to get better and better and better and grow, but we get very specific about that in the course. And even if you don't take our course, definitely like go try to edit some audio. Like, there's tutorials everywhere on the internet. You have to just kind of give yourself over to the realization that you're starting, which means when you start, it's going to take some time and you're going to be bad at it. I think one of the things that people struggle with is I'm not instantly good at it. Let me just move on. But like the first things you produce, just like when you're a kid, the first things you write, I have a 5-year-old right now, and it is like, what am I looking at? It's chicken scratch. But when he practices, obviously he'll get better and better. So don't be deterred by the technical stuff. It's not that complicated, and just assume you're not going to be great at it to start, but you will get better. It's really not complicated at all. The second place where people get stuck is the fear of, I don't know how I'm going to get clients. I don't know who's going to pay me for this. Where do I find these people? It's working through the fear of putting yourself out there in a new way. So if you predominantly have had 9-to-5s your whole life and haven't had to like go out and network and meet new people, that's going to be a challenge for you. And you have to, again, just kind of get over that fear. Know that the fear is coming with you, right? Like, the fear doesn't mean back off. Just know like, okay, my stomach's all jacked up. And also I'm going to join this Zoom meeting of people I don't know. It's okay. It just is what it is. So I think those are the two places that people get, they get the nerves and assume something's wrong. It's not wrong. It just is what it is.
So as we close out, talk about how this working for yourself online entrepreneurship journey has changed your life personally. Because I know part of the reason that you stuck with this was becoming a mother. So talk to us, talk to everybody listening. Although it was scary, although there's stuff you had to learn and you had to figure out your way, talk about how it has affected your life personally, making money online.
Yeah, I was just reflecting on that a couple of days ago, and it is so tremendous to me that just the generation before me, my mother, never had more than a high school degree, never made more than $20 an hour in her whole life, that the very next generation, thanks to, the internet and things I've done and all sorts of things, that I can just go and like make hundreds of thousands of dollars online. Like, that's just a thing that's available to me based on, the internet and the time in which I have been born. And it's just mind blowing to me. And so I love the internet because it is one of the greater equalizers of people. Most people have never heard of me before. After this, you probably still won't ever hear of me, and I will still continue to be making money and changing my family's legacy. So in 2018, one of my goals, like the first couple of years of my business, was to take my family on an international trip. So we went on our first international trip to Iceland and Scotland for like 3.5 weeks. We were gone forever. It was awesome. And I just bawled on the way home because I was like, I did that, like, significantly at that point, contributing to our household income, and also just took my family on a 3-week international vacation. Like, who does that? Like, talking to my mom, even on the Zoom while we were over there, I was like, Mom, what life am I living right now? And so I am all in, fully bought into the online business world, because it has changed my life so dramatically. And it's not like I'm like, driving a Maserati and like, club hot, like all over the place, but like I make more money than I ever have in corporate. My son gets to watch his mother, a Black woman, show up and basically just do whatever she wants. Listen, just basically do whatever I feel like doing. Like, I'm teaching my nephews and my nieces, this is how you make money. I think, and I'm probably rambling on, but I feel so passionately about this. Like, there's a difference between learning how to work hard, which I think most people have been taught, and learning how to create money. Those are two different skill sets. And now that I know I have both of them, I want to tell everybody. I want to teach all my nieces and nephews, you know, how do you actually create dollars? And so online business has just allowed me to do so much for those around me, to do so much for myself, and then elevated my own self-concept for what's possible and what I want to do in the years to come. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm like, is she a part of our family? Because that's exactly how we feel. That's one of the reasons why we have the His and Her Money show. We also have our platform, hisandhermoney.com. We want to show you all how to literally take back your lives and do whatever it is that you want to do. Everybody has a calling. Everybody has ministry within them. And this is so powerful. It's like, if you only knew. So you guys, make sure that you all check out the podcast production school, as well as their freebies. Go to hisandhermoney.com/PPS. The links will also be included in the show notes.
Can't say thank you enough, Hailey. This is super informative. We know we got people headed your way to learn. Please take good care of our people and get them up and running. But thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come and share this great knowledge with our audience.
Thank you.
I have enjoyed my time with you all so much. Thank you both.
Wow, that was
great.
Good. I mean,
my gosh.
We have a podcast, and I never thought that, hey, maybe people could start a side hustle producing podcasts.
That's so true.
Because the game is just growing.
That's right. And like she said, like Hailey said, there's going to be more and more podcasts in the next 6 or 12 months. Why don't you just get in on some of this money making, business and hey, make money.
Like we keep telling you, I mean, starting to sound like a broken record. Stop trying to depend on one source of income. Diversify yourself. Give yourself the power to have the ability to walk away from a situation that might be toxic, that may be draining, that may no longer be your passion.
And like Hailey said, you're going to walk away with knowledge. You're going to know something that you did not know before, and that you can make the choice to use it in different parts of your life. Maybe it's not to start a podcast or to start a podcast business per se, but maybe it's to start your own personal podcast.
For sure.
And you'll be well equipped as well too. So yeah, you guys, make sure you all go to hisandhermoney.com/PPS. We'll have the links included as well, and get started.
Well, that's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Until next time.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.